Today I'm going to talk to you about the impact of climate and aggressive weather systems on lighting, light fixtures, and hardware. What we have inherited are lighting standards and systems that have essentially been developed in Europe and North America. Most of North America and most of Europe does not have the aggressive climates as other parts of the world. You know, very few places, populated places in Europe and North America would have temperatures above 45 degrees Celsius. That's just so that you know, that's about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Routinely, they go up to 50 degrees Celsius. So that's about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So the systems and the standards that have been written for light fixtures are not at all relevant to many parts of the world where there are huge populations. Now, back in the day, when I say back in the day, I mean before the economic boom that came to Asia in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, first Korea, then China, then India, all just became economic powerhouses. Till then, nobody really was, well, most of Korea and China doesn't have aggressive climates, but Africa, South Asia, parts of Central America, aggressive climates. When I say aggressive, I'm talking about high temperatures, high humidity, high dust factor, etc. So back in the day, we didn't really pay too much attention because the manufacturers weren't really selling light fixtures in those areas, So they were like, yeah, whatever, it's okay, because we're not really selling, so why should we worry? So what ended up happening, the lighting standards were essentially developed for Europe and North America. All of these parts of the world that are actually very busy with construction activity. You have 50 degrees Celsius running through the course of the day, and you turn the lights on at night, and it's like, oh my God, the drivers are melted. The drivers are the devices that run LEDs. Or, oh my God, look at the water that's coming to the fixture. I thought it was completely sealed, because it came in through a capillary action, through a junction box, went through the conduits, through the cables, and up the fixture, because the valve that is supposed to keep the moisture out had failed because of heat. That's happened to us on a few projects, and often we'll be told, but the fixtures from Germany or from a very developed manufacturing base. That's all good. It could be from anywhere. The point is that it wasn't working in these climates. So it was failing because of humidity, it was failing because of temperature, it was failing because of dust. And 10 years ago, 15 years ago, most manufacturers had no idea what to do with this. We started talking about it. We started saying that the IEC code, which is the International Electric Code, and the American National Standards Institute, which is ANSI, and UL and others, really hadn't considered these aggressive climates. So how do you design for such aggressive climates? That became a big source of research for us, because I wasn't willing to wait around for the manufacturers to catch up and say, oh, well, Abhay, you just gave us hundreds of thousands of fixtures here, so we must do something. I wasn't willing to wait for that kind of natural progression to happen. So I started going out there and inventing our own processes. I'll give you a crazy example. We couldn't get a junction box that could handle humidity because the groundwater was so much, and this is for fixtures that are recessed in the ground. So I ended up, after the wiring was all done, I said to the electrical contractor, go and buy some candle wax, melt it, and put it in the junction box. Fill it up. Because then you would not have any shorting because the wires were shorting because of humidity, etc. His point was, well, but how are you going to maintain it? I said, well, you have to dig it back out, but it's way better than having to replace the light fixture in a week. At least this way you'll go the 4 or 5 years of warranty, And the other magic of this conversation is that when you buy these fixtures that come from reputed manufacturers, you install it in conditions which are aggressive, and when they fail, and you say, well, the fixture had a 5-year warranty, you're given the same line every time. Well, it wasn't really for these conditions. So, well, did you not know it was going to be this cold or this hot? So the point is that we had to come up with our own systems and standards. We started coming up with quality control steps for installation, that we would outreach to the contractors. We would work with them and say, hey guys, don't do it this way because I can assure you it's going to fail. If you're going to make an exterior cove in this kind of a situation, you can be sure that within a week it'll be covered with dead bugs, or the pigeons will be nesting in it. And you can't keep the pigeons away because they're extremely agile. Anyways, to cut a long story short, the idea of what the climate is and the impact it has on the lighting hardware beyond the codes that are for less aggressive climates, that whole concept of understanding the more aggressive climates, right, and the impact it has on the light fixtures, it's critical to the lighting design. It's critical because if you do lighting, with fixtures that are going to fail, then what's your project going to look like? We've been called in numerous times on projects in Africa and Middle East and South Asia saying that, hey, we have these specifications and the fixtures are all failing. How do you fix it? So sometimes the design has to change because you cannot install certain fixtures in those climates. That's a very important lesson to take. So it's not that you can take the design solution you would come up in New York City, right, and install it in the middle of Oman. It's not going to work. Oman's in the Middle East. It's not going to work, as that's been proven time and again. So the impact of climate on light fixtures, light design, hardware, I've written extensively about that in the book. But this is what I have to share with you today. It's a big conversation, long conversation, but I'll stop here and love to hear back from you, contextualizinglight.com, or you can email us directly at newyork@awalightingdesigners.com. Thank you for listening. Until the next time,